Art by Inked Playmats at inkedplaymats.com, your place for custom-made playmats. Design your own or shop from other featured designers. Use promo code KlotzDeal to save 10% on your order. Inked Playmats, your game, your style. To do on their website, and come join us for a fun, friendly F&M environment. Everybody, this is Kevin from KlotzProductions, and today I am doing a deck tech of the deck that I am currently playing, have been playing for a while, and that would be Glissa Control. I've done a deck tech for Glissa Grave, which was more of an aggro build, but I have been tweaking it and playing different versions. I played Grave, Ramp, and Control. I've actually played Control that had mana leaks and stuff in it. And this is the version that I've come up with. It's what I've been playing recently, and it's been doing pretty good. I've won a tournament with it, and I've got a few top 8s. So, go ahead and get started showing off the cards. First of all, we have 4 Glissa, which is the namesake of the deck. For other creatures, we have Perilous Myrs, 2 Perilous Myrs, a Sylvok Replica, a Phyrexian Metamorph, a Solemn Simulacrum, 2 Batterskulls, and 2 Wurmcoils. And that's all the creatures. Some of the other artifacts we have is Ratchet Bomb, 2 Nihil Spellbomb, and 2 Trading Post. And then we also have Garruk and Liliana. Garruk makes creatures as well. And then we have a bunch of removal. Our removal package is 3 Black Sun Zeniths, 3 Tragic Slips, 2 Sever the Bloodline, 1 Dismember, and 2 Go for the Throats. Then our lands, we have 5 forests, 8 swamps, 4 Woodland Cemeteries, a Hinterland Harbor, an island, a Grim Backwoods, a Buried Ruin, and 4 Evolving Wilds. I'll start with the lands. I'm doing dominantly swamps because I think it's more important that I be able to cast Black Sun Zenith or my removal spells early on, and Liliana, rather than being able to cast Glissa early on, because she's good on turn 3, but in a control deck, it's more of you want to play her later and get the utility from the other cards. But it still does a pretty good job of getting 2 green if you need it, because you actually have 5, 9, 10, 14 total sources of green with the Evolving Wilds if you need it. And the Evolving Wilds also let us search for the 1 island, and we can also search for the 1 island with the Solemn, and that's just used so that we can keep playing Phyrexian Metamorph without paying the 2 life for it. So some of the basic idea of the deck, like I said, is control. You use a lot of the removal to stay alive, the Black Sun Zeniths, and then you just win with powerhouse cards like Batterskull and Wurmcoil Engine. The Glissa can win, but she's more of a way to keep getting back the other artifact cards that are going to win. And the Trading Post is a very powerful card that's used to do tons and tons of things, tons of synergies with this deck. So I guess I'll talk about some of the combinations of how the cards work. Obviously, Perilous Myr is going to be good because you can block and kill something, and if Glissa's out, you immediately get the Perilous Myr back. That is a way that it triggers, like if 2 creatures die at the same time, your opponent's creatures and your creature, and like say the Perilous Myr dies, you can get the Myr back. Or if a Solemn dies, or a Metamorph dies, or a Replica dies, you can get those back because they go to the graveyard and trigger at the same time the creature dies, so you can keep getting those back with Glissa. Why do we have cards in here? Let's see. Perilous Myr, like I said, is just a utility card. It's an early chump block, and later in the game you can keep recycling it and using it to do extra damage. Sylvok Replica is used for artifact and enchantment removal. If Garruk flips, it can actually search for the replica, so that's why I'll run 3 1-ofs, because I can search for any of these if I need to. Phyrexian Metamorph is used to kill legendary creatures like Geist of St. Traff specifically, or Elesh Norn. And if you have Glissa out, then you can just play the Metamorph and it'll immediately recur to your hand. Solemn is just to help to get the lands that I need, and it builds lots of card advantage, so it's a card that you can play, get your land, block with it, it'll die, kill their creature, get it back and do it over, so you keep recycling it and getting more card advantage off of that. Obviously, Batterskull and Wurmcoil Engine are just really, really powerful artifact cards that I can keep recycling, keep getting back, and keep creating, or just, you know, punch in and do a lot of damage and gain a lot of life with to help against any really fast aggressive decks. The life gain is really important, and plus they're just good smashers that are hard to deal with. Some of the utility spells we have that are artifacts is Nihil Spellbomb. We have these specifically, well, they give you card drawing and you can recycle them with Glissa as well, but they're specifically used to exile graveyards There's lots of cards that work from the graveyard. Mostly it's going to be against zombie decks that run Geralf's Messenger and Gravecrawler. You can, on the Undying trigger from the Geralf's Messenger, you can sacrifice the Spellbomb so it doesn't come back and you don't lose the 2 life. So it's really good for that, and it's good against Snapcaster Mage in Delver decks to stop them from being able to flash back any of that stuff in response. Like I said, Trading Post is a very versatile card, does tons and tons of things. You usually end up making goats and then using those goats to get artifacts back. You know, let's pay 1 life to get a Wurmcoil back. I'm pretty good with that. You know, I'm okay with that. Sometimes I'll sacrifice an artifact to draw a card if I need to. You could theoretically sacrifice the Spellbomb to draw the card, and then pay the black to draw the card. So you won't exile the graveyard, but you get to draw 2 cards off of a Spellbomb if you don't need it for an exile. Or any other card, you can sacrifice Solemn and draw 2 cards. You can sacrifice a Myr, do 2 damage, draw a card. And since you're recycling the cards and getting them back, then you get tons and tons of card advantage off of the Trading Post. That was the newest addition to the deck and has definitely been an all-star in lots of games. We have Ratchet Bomb. Ratchet Bomb is creature removal, mostly. Sometimes, if you're playing against control, I'll play it early and then tick it up to 5 to kill things like Tameo or Gideon. But it's usually to kill little low-mana creatures early on. And with the Glissa, then you can just sacrifice the Ratchet Bomb, kill the creatures, immediately get it back. It's also really, really good against tokens, against black-white tokens, or any tokens, because you just sacrifice it, kills your dudes, you have Glissa out, you get it back. And you can do that on turn 3 if you play the Glissa on turn 3. It also kills a flipped Huntmaster and his token, so that's good. And then recycles 2 cards. So build a lot of card advantage that way, and it's just a way to stay alive, and lots of versatility to it, simply because of the fact that it can destroy any permanent, except for non-land ones. Unfortunately, it can't destroy Inkmoth Nexus, though I wish it could, because that's a problem card in some matches. And you also have to be careful that if you have a flipped Garruk, not to sacrifice Ratchet Bomb for 0, because it will kill your Garruk, because flipped cards all have converted mana cost of 0. But that's also good because you can kill a flipped Delver like that, so it makes your opponents think twice about flipping their Delver. Removal, like I said, we just have a basic removal. I'll have several different spells because I want to have lots of diversity. The Black Sun Zeniths are basically, well, they're board wipes, so I can deal with, on turn 4 I can wipe out tons of creatures if they've just been loading the board up. They can also kill Geist of St. Traft, so that gives me 3 answers to the Traft, the Geist. Along with the Phyrexian Metamorph and the 2 Lilianas, gives me a total of 6 answers to the Geist, which is a difficult card to deal with because it has Shroud. And then we have Sever the Bloodline, which is good against any decks that are playing really big creatures like Ramp, because they spend so much mana to do it, and then you just exile it, and then if they play another one, you just exile it again. It's also really good if you're playing against other Wurmcoil Engines, so you can exile them as well. The drawback with Sever the Bloodline is that it doesn't cause Glissa's trigger since they don't go to the graveyard. And if you copy a creature with Metamorph, like a big dude, you can't exile it with the Sever because then you lose your own Metamorph. So those are some of the drawbacks to it, but it's definitely a good removal card. It gives a lot of diversity, and it's good against tokens because it gets rid of all of the same token. And you can build quite a bit of card advantage off of it if you're killing like 2 Delvers, 2 Angels, whatever, and then flashing it back to do more. So you're getting 2 and 3 for 1s. Dismember, I just have 1 of in there because it's instant speed removal. Like I said, I have trouble with Inkmoth Nexus, so I have the Dismember and the 3 Tragic Slips so that I can deal with those at instant speed. It also helps deal with Gideon when he transforms because the only instant speed removal I have is Tragic Slip. That's really the only way I can kill Gideon. Main deck aside from attacking it. And the Dismember can help to shrink it. And then I have Go for the Throat as well. But that's why I'm going with the instant speed removal. Just because there's creatures that can only be hit on their turn, and so I need these sort of cards to deal with that. So I think it's pretty much it for the main deck. I guess some of the cards I didn't talk about was Garruk. He usually just used to make wolves, and then when he flips you can search for things like Wurmcoil Engine. You know, like a lot of times he'll flip, and then I'll just search for a Wurmcoil Engine, then play Wurmcoil, then maybe make a token, and then search for another Wurmcoil. And so that gives me the ability to find the creatures that I want. You know, like I have all these one-ofs here. So if I absolutely need artifact or enchantment removal, I can search for the replica with the Garruk. Or any of these other cards. If I actually really need them in a situation, then I can search for them. But it's usually just finding Garruk. And he is also removal, so he's good at killing any little creatures as well, and that'll cause them to flip. And he's a win condition because he makes lots of dudes. Liliana is good against control, and she's good at dealing with hexproof creatures, shroud creatures. I've ultimated her a few times, which is always good. Ultimates are always good, but she's mainly there for dealing with any sort of hexproof or shroud creatures, which is really good against green decks that run a lot of creatures like that, or like I said earlier, against Geist of St. Traft. And the fact that you can pitch artifacts and then recycle them, you don't actually lose the card advantage for pitching cards off of her, ideally if you have Glissa out. It doesn't always work out that way, but sometimes it does, and you can just empty out your hand and then force them to discard cards, which is good against other control decks. So that's it for the main deck. We'll go ahead and get into the sideboard. For the sideboard, we have 2 Naturalizes, 2 Spellskites, 2 Sylvok Replicas, another Metamorph, another Ratchet Bomb, another Liliana, a play set of Grafdigger's Cage, which may be too many, but that's how many I have, and 2 Hex Parasite. Sylvok Replica, Naturalize, it is more artifact and enchantment removal if I absolutely need it, or if I'm playing decks that run lots of artifacts or enchantments, like there's an artifact deck running around right now. It's an artifact control deck, runs basically all artifacts, so all these would come in against them. And the reason I have Naturalize is because, as opposed to just all Sylvok Replicas, is because for one, it gives me more options. It gives me instant speed removal. If I need the early on, like 2-drop removal for an artifact, if I want to, stop Birthing Pod really early on, I have that option. Because the Sylvok Replica is not going to destroy anything until turn 4. But it's mainly in there because of one card, and that is Stony Silence. If somebody plays a Stony Silence, it usually comes in against black-white tokens. They have it in their sideboard to counter against the Ratchet Bombs. But that card pretty much shuts down my whole deck in itself. So it happened before, like I won the first game against tokens, and then game 2 and 3 they brought in Stony Silence, and I couldn't deal with it, so I pretty much just lost. So after that I added the Naturalizes, and I've actually played against blue-white mid-range, and they played Stony Silence on turn 2, and I wasn't expecting it, and they shut me down, and I wasn't able to win, because it just shuts down the majority of the deck. Like, all it leaves is my removal and my Garruks. But all the card advantage that I gain from everything else, I can't reactivate them and trigger them. So that's why Naturalize is in there. Spellskite is in there for red decks, if I need early blockers or to stop damage from red deck wins. It's really good against that. And obviously it's an artifact, so I can recycle it. It goes for any of the artifacts in the sideboard. And it's also in there for Wolfrun Ramp because, like I said, I have a lot of trouble with Inkmoth Nexus. Not doing the 1 damage at a turn, but if it gets pumped, if I play the Spellskite, I can use it to stop the Kessig Wolfrun from pumping the Inkmoth Nexus, and gives me more time. I already talked about Replica. I have Metamorph if I'm playing against decks with a lot of legendary creatures, or sometimes I'll bring it in against Delver just to kill Geist. It gives me more outs to that. And if I'm playing against Wolfrun, then I'll let them play their Titans, and then I'll copy their Titan, get the advantage of searching for 2 of my lands, like my Buried Ruin or like my Buried Ruin and my Grim Backwoods, or any lands that I need. Then I can just, kill the guy or whatever. But I like to have that to take advantage of other people having big creatures, basically. So that's why I have another one of those. Ratchet Bomb is good against Delver and tokens. It's just more the same. I usually bring it in against Delver because it kills flip Delvers. It's really good against them. Since a lot of their creatures are 1-drops, and it's another answer to Geist of St. Traft if you get it up to 3. So that's why another one of those are in there. Liliana is if I'm playing against another control deck, or if there's more Shroud creatures, I might bring her in. Grafdigger's Cage was a late addition, and this card has been several different things, but I end it with Grafdigger's Cage because mainly it deals with pod decks. If you have Grafdigger's Cage out, then they can't activate any of their pod abilities, so your 1-drop shuts off their pod. And so if they're on the play and they play a ramp, then you can play the Grafdigger's Cage and shut them down real quick, which you need to do so they don't get out of hand. And the only card that it shuts down for our deck is the flashback from the Sever the Bloodline. So it's it's worth the payoff to get it in. And it's also used if I'm playing against zombies or any deck that's running 4 Garruk's Messengers and 4 Grave Crawlers, because usually that's the backbone of those decks, the ability to keep recycling the Grave Crawlers, keep recycling the Messengers and doing a lot of damage with them. They're really hard to deal with, so I just play a Grafdigger's Cage and it stops any of those interactions. They don't come back from undying and they can't be replayed from the graveyard. So that's what the Grafdigger's Cage are for. Finally, I have the 2 Hex Parasite, and these are used to kill Planeswalkers. That's basically what they are for. There are other cards that they interact with, but they are mainly in there to kill Planeswalkers. Because I am playing Control, it can be difficult to deal with Planeswalkers. I like to play a Parasite, kill the Planeswalker, and since it's an artifact, then I can recur it with Glissa or Trading Post. So, Planeswalker killer. So, that is the deck tech for my Glissa Control deck. I hope you all enjoyed it, found it informative. I will be continuing to play this deck until rotation, more than likely, and then I'll have to come up with some other idea. I have tons of ideas, but until the next set is spoiled completely, I don't know what I'm going to build. But this is what I'll be playing until then. I hope you all liked this video, and I'll see you all later.